All right, good evening, everyone. Today is Monday, March 7th. This is the Pittsburgh REIA Commercial Group meeting. This group normally meets on the second Tuesday of every month, but we're meeting on a Monday because of several conflicts, actually, for tomorrow evening. So tonight, our guest speaker is Jeri Lucco. I'll let her introduce herself in just a minute or so here. But for those who've joined us for the first time, and for those who are going to watch this recording at a later date and who have not attended our meetings previously, just want to give you an idea of how this meeting is structured and what we're looking to, what our goals are and what we try to accomplish in this meeting. We normally have either for the first part of our meetings, we normally have a guest speaker come in to talk to the group about a specialized area of either commercial real estate or business. Or I will facilitate a topic with the individuals that are on the call. The second part, which is always something, we always do, we always have our roundtable discussion, which is basically just an opportunity for everyone to virtually, for now, go around the room and talk about what your interests are, what your goals are, questions you have, properties you're looking to buy or sell, if you're looking to invest in certain types of assets, if you're looking for partners or suppliers or whatever it is you need this meeting to be to actually help you meet your goals. That's what we want this meeting to be. So with that said, I will let Jeri introduce herself. I thank you, Jeri, for being here tonight. We've been on a few other networking calls, and there's a lot of synergy here. So I'm excited that Jeri's here. I think we could help each other out with quite a few things. So Jeri, thank you for being here, and I'll let you take it from here.
Thank you, Paul. And I'm going to share my screen in a second, but before I do that, I just want to warn everybody that once I share my screen, I can't see you anymore. So if you have questions, you can try doing the hand raise, or you can ask Paul to interrupt me, or just jump in. I would love questions. I'm going to talk a little bit about me and my business, and then I've got a few different brands that I wanted to highlight that are not necessarily in the Pittsburgh market at the moment, but I would dearly love to work with anyone who is in the Pittsburgh market to bring them there. So give me 1 second and I will share my screen.
And again, if anyone has any questions through the presentation, I'll be monitoring the chat. Feel free to ask it there, or if you want to do a hand raise, or if you just want to jump in. It sounds like Jeri's okay with that. You could, any one of those options. Let's keep this informal. So
cool. Okay, so I am generally, if you find me on LinkedIn, you're going to see that I say that I am a franchise business search advisor. And what the heck is that? So essentially, I am an executive recruiter specifically for the franchise space. Like many of you guys, I pay for performance. I'm actually paid by the franchisor. There is never, ever a cost from the franchisees to me. No matter how much I work with them. I've got a couple of clients I've been working with off and on for the better part of 2 years. And as long, not full time, luckily, but as long as I feel like they're sincere in their desire to find a franchise business, I will continue looking for them. I use multiple lead sources, some of which we'll talk about tonight. But generally, internet ads, portal ads, Facebook, LinkedIn, that kind of thing, Google ads. I love referrals, and a lot of the work that I'm doing now, I'm heading into my 5th year of being a business search advisor, is developing my relationships with referral sources. Career transition coaches are fantastic referrals. As you can imagine, most of the people that think that they want to own a business or run a business may not have the right mindset to feel confident that they can actually do it. I have spoken to so many people that are in the corporate space that want out of the corporate space, but are just, they feel like it's a more stable environment, which which boggles my mind, frankly. So I work with career transition coaches because they have gone through that process of getting them confident that they can actually run a business. And then I just help them find what that business is. And that's been a very successful relationship back and forth. Commercial brokers is definitely an area where I am working to develop stronger relationships. And even though, like, when I first started in this business, I was like, oh, I should have relationships with commercial brokers. It wasn't until I had a conversation about 6 months ago. I was having coffee with a local commercial broker. And at the end of the conversation, he was like, you wouldn't believe the number of people that come into my office and they want an office space or warehouse space, but they don't have a business plan. Some of them don't even have a business, but they know they need an office. And I was like, hello, for the next time you refer them to me. And, frankly, after they find a business they like, I'll refer them right back to you, so it creates a very symbiotic, synergistic relationship. And then, of course, family and friends. I've had several people that I used to work with that have referred some of their friends to me. One of my bosses referred his brother. So I'm always looking for my network to be thinking about, just listening for if they have someone who wants to start a business and doesn't want to come up with it all on their own. I have a little smiley face there. I definitely pay referral fees for referrals into me, and would gladly refer people back to you once they found a business, if we have that kind of relationship. A little bit about my business. I'm actually based in Columbus, Ohio, but I work across the entire U.S. I'm affiliated with a network called Business Alliance out of Washington State. And they do a lot of back office support for me. So they do the vetting and the research and the identification of new brands into the inventory. They also make sure I get paid from those brands once someone signs. And through them, I probably have 325 plus or minus different businesses that I can refer to across all types and sizes and investment levels, and just, whatever you'd want to do. I also then have an independent representation with about 10 to 15 other brands. And these are brands that maybe are emerging, like they're really small. They're too small to actually want to work with a broker network to start with, because there's a lot of back office work and people that are needed to support. If you're working with you can imagine if you have 325, 350 different brokers that are referring people into you. And some of them are like, I find them because I have clients that say they're looking for something. And I actually have one that I'm going to talk about today, two actually, that came about because I had a client who asked for something in that category. And so I went out and found them. So I love meeting new brands. As part of the work that I do, I actually also then have multiple referral partners that help me do business or help my clients do business once they find a franchise. So I have a couple of different partners that actually help turn businesses into franchises. And that's always fun to go through that process and help them kind of realize their goal of expanding their business through franchising. I have several funding partners, not only for traditional SBA loans, but also for general business loans, equipment leases, the 401k Rob, some of the names that I'm sure you guys all know, Guidant and Benetrends. So generally, whatever someone needs, I can refer them to somebody, usually multiple people, that can help them get pre-qualified and understand what they can afford when they're looking at a franchise. And then I have a lot of businesses that I stay very close to that I can then refer my clients to once they've signed. I have commercial insurance, bookkeeping, accounting, payroll, different services along the way that tend to be like some of the first types of services that someone needs once they've signed an agreement. And then you can see there that it also includes like commercial brokers, commercial developers, that kind of thing. This is a sample, and you can start to understand why someone might think that they want to work with someone like me, right? There are so many decisions to make. Once you decide you want to own a business and you want to look at franchises, there's 4,500 plus in the US alone. The fact that I represent 325 is a lot, right? But there's just so many different things that you need to be thinking about. And part of the work that I do is to just kind of understand not only the financial qualifications, what do they have for liquid, what is their net worth. I do an over-under on credit score just to make sure that they're going to be able to get some funding. Sometimes I'll have a conversation about what they've got in terms of retirement funds. I don't go too deep. But it's also like, well, how are you planning on operating this business? What have you done before? What are the types of people you want to work with? Are you okay with it being seasonal where you're crushed during the summer, but then you get to take the winter and go to Florida? So there's a lot of conversations that I have to try to hone in on the subset of businesses that I represent that will potentially meet their qualifications, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can see there on the location type, I have, home-based, light industrial, high street, mixed use. I have an other, and I'll talk a little bit about a couple of brands that I do that I think fall into that other category. But I always try to get a candidate, if it's not a home-based business. I always try to refer them to a commercial broker agent to help them find their space. I feel like you guys are going to help them understand what the market is like, help them negotiate the right kinds of terms. You're going to know, which properties, some of these are assumptions of mine, but you're going to know which properties are, more likely to give TI and what kind of levels of TI, and if they're nice to, if they're good landlords or what. And I want my people to, head into owning a business to have every chance at success. And Paul probably has a good case study of someone who didn't use you where they should have. They should have used a broker to help them along the way, and they tried to do it themselves, and now they're in a pickle. So I always refer them to someone local if I know someone local, or I reach out and try to find them someone who I feel can help them along that path. Franchising, I mean, the last couple of years have been kind of crazy, right? And like everything else, when everything shut down in like March 2020, we had a dip, and you can see here like that there was a real dip in the fact that, people were saying, okay, I don't think right now is the right time to be starting a business on my own or anything like that. But, as of like February of 22, we're at near record levels in terms of the people that think that all the stars are aligning to go ahead and start their own business. Interestingly, even though we're talking about the Great Resignation and all that kind of stuff, we're not seeing too much change in why people want to start a business. Be my own boss, control my destiny, control my time and my life, is and has been for several years the primary reason why someone wants to actually start a franchise business. Last year, 2021, was one of the strongest years we've seen in terms of franchise purchases, and we're expecting that to continue through 2022. There's a few craziness out there with finding employees, and frankly, property is starting to be a factor, but there is more interest than ever for wanting to actually start and manage my own business.
And Jeri, I have a question if I could.
Sure.
So about that, looking at the February 2022 numbers in terms of people across the board on this survey are saying that it's as good of a time as it's been in quite some time to start a business. Are there certain, are they, why are they saying that? Is that just because they feel like they can buy businesses at a discount because of what's happened over the last couple of years, or is there optimism because there are certain industries that, for whatever reason, right now are poised to thrive because of what's happened over the last couple of years? Are there certain segments that are driving some of the optimism? For example, Sal on the call this morning, he said, COVID actually, he always dealt with local, businesses, and now he's probably doing, I don't know what percentage of his business is connecting business owners and buyers across the country. So something like that might have been, a net positive for him. So again,
Right.
there's certain industries, certain types of businesses that people are more optimistic about now, or is this just a very high, level general sentiment?
Um, you know, uh, Funny enough, in times of turmoil, we generally see that franchising becomes really popular. So they feel a little bit less sure of the whole corporate landscape. And I feel like a lot of it right now. I have some other data that's showing that the millennials and the what's after that Gen Yers are towards the top of the people that are actually looking for franchises, overcoming like the boomers that are starting to age out.
Mhm.
Um, so I think in general, a lot of them want to take more control of their life sooner.
Okay.
Funny enough, I'm seeing a lot of interest in like the food space, which boggles my mind, frankly. But I get a lot of people in that want something food oriented. I'm seeing a lot of interest in brands, though, that even though they're looking at food, they're looking at some of the more niche kind of offerings where maybe they don't need as many employees. It's a simpler offering. It needs visible space, but it doesn't necessarily need all of like the ovens and things like that. Um, I'm seeing a lot of interest in the service brands. And then pet is like bananas. uh, across the board. I've actually got a brand. I'm not talking about it today, unfortunately. I should have put it in there, but I've got a brand that's, it's a cat hotel and spa. But the whole dog boarding is super popular. Pet supplies, super popular. So I'm seeing a lot of activity across the board, but I would say, pet service and funny enough, food, yeah, are the ones that I'm getting asked about most.
And Jeri, you said service industry in general, certain types of businesses there that stand out, or are you talking more
The home
retail?
improvement, the home improvement, um, but I haven't heard of um, any of the service industries that I've got in my inventory struggle, right?
Yeah.
The outdoor, because I have several that are landscaping oriented, like irrigation or outdoor lighting or patios or home detailing and things or painting. All of them have been just really beating 2019 numbers,
Mhm.
right? Everyone saw a little dip in 2020, but some of them then actually ended up finishing 2020 stronger than 2019. And
Mhm.
then 2021 actually came in even stronger than that.
Okay.
Um, but a lot of the, home services, the home improvement, kitchen tune-ups, and redoing my kitchen, redoing my bathroom, as you can imagine,
Mhm.
right? And then of course, like there's the ones that are disaster recovery and things like that. They always traditionally do very strong, and that's a really high margin business as well. So yeah, it's really weird. Uh, I've got several businesses like commercial cleaning, and I haven't had anyone come in lately for commercial cleaning, but the last time I talked to them, they were like, you know what, we really, when everyone went home, they were like, okay, now what do we do? But what ended up happening is that they were bringing on additional services for all of the disinfecting and everything. So even those businesses, they they had less customers, and they were working at these offices less frequently in terms of the day-to-day cleaning. But that business was usurped by the fact that they then had all of this additional work with these same businesses that were still there. So
Mhm.
even they ended up having extremely strong years when no one thought they were going to, frankly.
Yeah. Yeah, with everyone's a lot of companies still trying to figure out what to do in terms of working from home, working in the office. I have several friends who were doing this hybrid. They're sharing decks. They're sharing desks. So someone's there for the first 2 days of the week. Someone's there for the next 3 days of the
Yep.
week. There's cleaning people there every night. They're disinfecting the same space over and over again multiple times a week.
Yep.
So that makes sense. Certainly
Yep.
makes sense.
Yeah. And some businesses, I hate to use the word pivot, but and I actually feel like this is one of the key strengths of having a franchise versus doing it yourself, right? um, the smart businesses figured out how to take advantage of some of the environment that was going on, right? One of a really good brand called Nerds to Go, they were kind of like a you break I fix type of model,
Mhm.
and they actually got acquired by the holding company that owns Fast Signs. Fast Signs is one of the best franchises out there. They have amazing technology. Their tagline is um, uh, now I forgot what the tagline was, but it's like it's more than fast, more than signs, right? They are a visual graphics company, And so Nerds to Go got acquired by them. Well, they sat back and looked at them strategically and created a whole range of B2B services to really offer remote network services for the people that are working from home or for the people that are now going to be remote. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, what a brilliant idea, because I work from home all the time. And if anything happens with my modem, other than unplug it and plug it back in, I have no clue what the heck I would do with it, right? So a business that I could have on a subscription model to basically maintain my whole home internet, my whole home connectivity with Internet of Things and with gaming and with kids working, going to school from home and with parents working from home. What a brilliant idea. Um, and it's the fact that you don't have to be thinking about the whole product development cycle. There's people at the headquarters that are there to do it, which I think is one of the best parts of franchising.
Yeah. All right, Jared, any other examples that you could think of that use that type of innovation to, retailer their products or services as a result of everything that happened in the last couple of years? I mean, that's a great example of how how companies continue to evolve, continue to innovate, and to, I mean, I could see really, I mean, offering new and improved services. And I could see the subscription model works in a lot of different areas.
Yeah.
I spent about 3 days last weekend trying to update my Microsoft 365 services on my laptops here, and maybe that's not a good example, but yeah, this Fastlines example. I mean, any other examples like that really impressed you in terms of companies reinventing themselves or adding or changing their business model to adjust in a really good way like that?
Well, Fast Signs did too, as a matter of fact. Fast Signs, like the day after things closed down, had a whole suite of signage and like how like everyone had to do the 6 feet apart thing and
Yeah.
all that sort of
Yeah.
stuff, right? They had a whole library of um, graphics for all of their franchisees to have access to. And they actually had a franchisee who developed, I don't know all the particulars, but he basically developed a like a plastic screen for eye doctors, so that when you had to go and have the eye test done, he developed this plastic screen to protect both the doctor and the patient, so that you weren't breathing into each other, right?
Mhm.
And they basically, I guess you can create a model of that, and they rolled it out to all of the franchisees, um, so that they all had, like new product offerings, right? A lot of the food businesses, not all, but a lot of the food businesses were able to pretty quickly create, pickup or takeout or delivery and things like that. I had some brands. I have a wing brand out of North Carolina. Their business before COVID, before 2020, their business was probably about 75 to 80%. It's called Wing It On. 75 to 80% takeout. They didn't have to change a thing. They already had an app. They already were like small footprint. They were built for takeout, carry out, pickup, curbside, whatever. They didn't have to change a thing, and their sales, just went bananas, right? So a lot of businesses that were, probably had these as like, it's a side offering. Yeah, we can do takeout, or yeah, we can do this. Just really were able to capitalize on that pretty quickly.
Yeah. And it seems like for the companies that had to that had to scale those services quite a bit. For example, the whole, pick up groceries at the supermarket idea, right?
Yeah.
So that was something that John Eagle and Walmart and others Target had done beforehand. But once things scaled to the point that they have over the last couple of points, they actually had, so this is where the commercial real estate part of it comes into understanding these trends, which is they had to change their supply chain and their process to account for that. So some of these companies then had to acquire industrial properties in very targeted areas so they could package and deliver at these offsites and then send them to the grocery stores or other markets.
Mm-hmm.
So right now industrial properties are in the Pittsburgh area as well as across the country, or besides multifamily, the two of the hottest real estate classes out there right now, because a lot of these companies, they had to change for a lot of reasons. This is just one example, but for a lot of reasons, had to change their process, had to change their, update their supply chain. And all of a sudden they realized, well, we need commercial real estate that's more aligned with how we perform and how we execute our business. So just a commercial real estate tie-in to on top of what all this looks like practically to small businesses. So that was huge. I mean, that's one huge example. So.
Yep. Like even businesses that you might have thought were not going to do much, right? The moving business, right? The moving category. Again, one of my favorite brands, College Hunks, Hauling, Junk and Moving. They got a hit, but what they did is they actually, decided to embrace, what can I do in terms of pay it forward. So, even though there was a short-term hit, because there was that little period of time where people were staying like pretty, staying at home kind of stuff,
Yeah.
and not thinking about moving. And that's before everyone was like, wait a minute, if I'm remote, I can go wherever I want kind of thing, which then jump-started the whole moving industry again. But like College Hunks, Hauling Junk, I actually have a client here in the Columbus area that I helped find College Hunks. And they were like, they could have just, pulled back and just like hunkered down. But instead they went out and said, hey, you know what? We're going to do free moves for victims of domestic violence.
Yeah.
So they actually launched a pay it forward program, at the beginning of the pandemic, because it was like, hey, let's think about how we can think of others around that. College Hunks Hauling Junk actually already does like every job that happens across the franchise system. They actually donate 2 meals to a hunger alliance. So they are a very, very philanthropic brand, and they just, they added another program to the pie to help people when things were, kind of in a bad spot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's a great example.
Yeah, it's nice to see what people can do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to talk about a few brands. Now I've got newer in quotes here. So a couple of these brands have been around for a little while, but they're not really in the Pittsburgh area yet. And some of them are actually newer. And I think, like I said, I have 4 or 5 brands here. The first 4 have a pretty strong retail play, and but they're great models. They're innovative models, and I think you'll find them interesting. So this first one is actually called Legato Living. So Legato Living essentially takes generally single family homes, 2,000 square foot plus, and turns them into residential living facilities primarily for Alzheimer's, dementia, memory care patients. So each home, they want, generally somewhere between 8 to 12 residents. It's a small staff model. And they, the way they position it is that it's actually a real estate investment model. So, buy the real estate, you launch the business that's using this real estate, and the business is paying off the home while you're a franchisee. And, at the end of the franchise term, you can either say, I want to renew, or you can say, hey, guess what? My property's paid for. I don't think I'm going to renew. It's a new enough model. We don't know what's going to happen at the end of that 10-year cycle there. They currently have 2 locations in Nebraska, and they have several people that are in the pipeline, across the U.S. actually. They want you to have a ranch. Generally, they want it to be like a ranch house. Although I have a 2-story rental in Columbus, Ohio. And, I was having a conversation with them about like, well, where could I put an elevator or something like that? And seriously considered, like maybe I just change my property to, be able to house a Legato living franchise. It's super profitable. You can see there that they say, according to the item 19, it can produce, 6 figures of net profit over and above having paid for the actual mortgage on the property. Mm-hmm. I've got a link here, and I'll send this out to Paul, but there's a link here to their website where you can see a little bit about, they have some tours through the houses and things like that, different rooms. And, they're really nice houses. You probably have 5, 6 staff. It's like a 1 to 3, 1 to 4 ratio of the actual caretakers. Then, you have a house manager or something like that. It's a brand. They do want people that are going to be involved in the business, but they're comfortable with having a nurse or an admin kind of run the home, and the actual owner of the business basically takes care of the the business side, like the marketing, the P&L management, anything to do with construction or whatever like that. This is a great model, and the people that actually founded this as a franchise have another franchise, which is a home healthcare business, and they're in it for the right reasons. They had parents trying to take care of parents, and decided that they needed to do something about it. So created the home healthcare business, and have since helped a couple of other businesses launch as franchises, so that they can support the ever-growing population of people with that are aging and with Alzheimer's and dementia. Mm. So if you have any real kind of residential real estate opportunities, this is a great way to put it at use and have it be paid for through the business.
Jeri, it's interesting that this is one of the first types of franchises that you're talking about. Residential assisted living facilities, and I'm just going to be general. I'm not going to define like types of levels of care in these homes. A lot of interest in our group in that sort of thing. We've had some members go to the state and try to figure out what they needed. I mean, I think one of your last bullet points on this slide is having a nurse admin run the business. I mean, based on the type of level of care, you do need an RN to manage the staff. But just the idea, just for a couple different reasons. One, Allegheny County, where Pittsburgh resides, there's 1.2 million residents. 20 to 22% of them are 65 and over. So I think it's the highest 65 and over population outside of one of the counties down in South Florida. So there are, I've talked to many of our members who either have like a 5-bedroom ranch house that they could, potentially have up to 10 residents, depending on what the rules are and size of the, whatever. But the big hurdle has been the actual operator aspect of it. So a lot of times I get questions saying, well, I have a property that would be great for homeless veterans, or that's what I want to do. That's the mission I want to accomplish.
Yeah.
Or, but much more in this case. And we actually reached out to the group a couple times over the last 2 or 3 years in terms of having this be a topic, which was what's the opportunity and how to either evaluate or invest in, or the big hurdle is operating one of these facilities because of all the regulations. Yet you have to go to the state and try to recreate the wheel. So I don't know, and I need to think about this, but I think there's, it doesn't sound like there are many. He said they only have locations
there's just a couple of locations in Nebraska at the moment.
Nebraska, but if they are like, if they were a an operator franchise was looking for, if they were looking for, wanted to rent a facility, there's a lot of people who have, again, large ranch houses or are pursuing large ranch houses, but where they get stuck is the operation of the facility, just because of all the rules and regulations and insurance and, and how are they going to get paid, right? So is it Medicare? Is it out of pocket? Is it Medicaid? Is it, and what those reimbursement rates are, and how to put together a business model based on all that. So, this is interesting to me from a perspective of, like I said, the operating and the operation has been the big hurdle for some of our members who are interested. So this might be, this example is something I get excited about, as you can tell, because like I said, there's a lot of people who want to serve this, this segment. And there's a couple of large, this market's pretty fragmented anywhere you go. Locally, there's a couple names that came up to mind that I know they have several facilities, several 6 to 10 single family houses in the area, just around where I live, maybe just a couple. But I see Blaze raised his hand here, so I'll give the floor to him and let him ask his question.
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to raise hands or not.
You jump in, cut me off, please. Everyone's hoping someone cuts me off. So
no, what you're saying was interesting, and I think it's kind of on point. My question was, there's a lot of local, state, county, federal money available in grants or in subsidies for the acquisition and operations of facilities like this. Has Legato Living actually set SOPs up as far as acquiring these funds and all that? Because if you include all these funds and these grants and support and everything like that, the model makes sense. But without it, then I have the concerns about, operation costs and everything kind of diminishing.
The two locations up in Nebraska actually are really profitable. And I do not know if they help with the, kind of identifying the acquisition of funds. I think it's a great question. I can guarantee you that I'm going to be getting in touch with them tomorrow to ask them, because I think if they're not, they should. In terms of the operation, Paul, in terms of what you were saying, part of what the brand does is the training and helping the franchisee understand and maneuver through the laws and the regulations and the type of care and the type of activities that the residents need to do.
Mhm.
So they are not, they don't swoop in and become the operator for the franchisee,
Right.
but they do train you how to do it. Now, if you hire a nurse or an admin or something like that, and I would say that someone who's been involved in home health care
Mhm.
would be, phenomenal at this. Um, they make sure that you have all the training and frankly the ongoing support that you
Yeah.
need to keep on top of that type of thing.
Mhm.
They show you how to make sure that you're staying within those boundaries as rules change and as laws change. Um, they help you understand what can and can't be done by insurance versus non-insurance or long-term care or whatever it needs to be.
Mhm.
So that is a huge part of what they're doing in terms of support of you as a franchisee.
So Jeri, are they, so for example, if I said, I mean, and every now and then I do, I mean, come across a 5-bedroom ranch house
Mhm.
that, I'll, I don't want to give specific examples, but the homeless veteran example was a good one
Mhm.
because, certain municipalities are, in Pittsburgh area, they have conditional approval if you meet certain requirements, obviously, to do veterans to have a veteran, homeless veterans facility there, and there's funding, and I don't understand how all that works. I never
Right.
directly owned one or operated one, but I know, helping others, find properties for what, to do that. I mean, if one of us on the call said tomorrow we had a 5-bedroom house, we would love to be a part of this mission, and financially, we feel we can get a higher than market rent for a 5-bedroom ranch house. Is Legato, I mean, do they have to already have done all the due diligence in the market? Or once you say, "Hey, I'm in Pennsylvania. I love this. I love this slide. I go on the website. I found a property, 5 bedrooms in a great area that, it's for whatever reason, I'm would they help do, I mean, can you buy a Legato Living franchise if they're have not already set up all operations, or is it someone come to you, say, I want to do this, I love this, and they come in after the fact to say, okay, let us get ramped up on what you have to do? I don't know which comes first, them
No, no,
like identifying operations, or someone coming to them and then they say, okay, we'll go to Ohio, we'll go to Massachusetts, we'll go to
yeah,
West
no,
Virginia.
that's exactly the way it works, and that's the way it works in the normal course of my business, right? Is, hey, I generally they're going to come in and say, um, I really want to be involved in the senior care market. What do you got?
Hmm.
And I might talk about home health care, and if they express an interest in any kind of like real estate, because sometimes I'll get people in that say, I really like real estate, and it's like, okay, well, let me look at things that involve you having to get involved with real estate, right?
Hmm.
Um, and then if they like what they hear, uh, I introduce them to Legato Living. And but frankly, the first thing I usually do is a territory check. So it's like, hey, I've got someone in the middle of Pittsburgh. Are you interested? Funny enough, I had a client, a lead come in about 2 weeks ago who was from the Pittsburgh area. And he was actually looking at something around homeless and veterans and people getting out of prison and stuff like that. I was like, well, I frankly, I don't know of any franchises that do that.
Hmm.
But I've got one that works with, seniors with memory care issues and stuff like that. And he was super interested. He was like, "Oh, well, maybe I'll do that," because he was having to figure out how the heck do I manage one of these things
Yeah,
if it's
that's
the
the
homeless.
hurdle. I mean, And especially with a lot of these type of facilities, depending on the level of care that you're providing and the type of patients that reside on your property, you to apply for the license. I got through a certain point several years ago in evaluating this, but you have to get to a certain point where after a certain level, you have to have an RN on staff as your administrator, identifies your administrator on the state paperwork in order to get your license to operate. So from the state approval level, you need that for a lot of. So my point, if I could just speak in bullet points here for once, there's a lot of people that would be interested in this type of franchise here in Pittsburgh. The operational aspect, to summarize, the operational aspect has been the one hurdle. It's actually dissuaded people from pursuing the property and owning the real estate, renovating the real estate, and operating it. But there are a lot of people that have properties or are seeking properties such as that would be aligned with what they would need for this type of facility. So if it's, so if that helps facilitate. So if there's someone who you find and who wants the, someone on this call wants to do the franchise, there might be someone else. I'm sure there's someone else in our group has a 5-bedroom ranch, and that would want to pursue this type of rental because of the mission, above market rents that you can normally get for a 5-bedroom ranch, and the mission aspect I know is going to be really important. And one last thing I'll say, and I'll let you continue to speak if I could. You mentioned that there was someone from Pittsburgh who reached out to you about certain franchise opportunities. Again, if they specifically need, if they didn't want to own the real estate and they were, it sounds like they wanted to own the real estate, but if they didn't,
they actually had the real estate.
Oh, they had it. Okay. But my point was, if there's anyone you talk to, whether it's the individuals or franchises such as these that want to rent the real estate and they want to be in Pittsburgh, then definitely let me know, because gosh, especially this concept, I know we'd have several people at properties to lease out to these operators.
Yeah, it's funny you say 5-bedroom, 5 bedrooms. This property here on the bottom picture is I think it's this one is a 5-bedroom, 3-bathroom ranch.
Okay.
Yeah, and they definitely have more than one resident in a bedroom.
Yeah.
Depending on the size of the bedrooms, you might have 3 or 4. They don't crowd them in, but it's not like one per room.
I know size requirements. I know a lot of people even take, they'll finish a 2-car garage because you don't necessarily need a 2-car. So they'll create a bedroom by finishing, and insulating and framing, insulating and heating and cooling, just because they don't need that for storage. If they don't need it for storage or something like that.
And the rents.
I know you have other brands you wanted to talk about, and but I lit up, as you can tell, because this has been something that's been,
and
our group has been trying to figure out how to penetrate. So
it wasn't planned, I promise.
No, I know.
The rents that a resident pays is at about the same level as someone might pay if they're in a nursing facility.
Yeah.
Right. So you can imagine if you have 8 to 10 to 12 residents paying between $5,000 and $8,000 to $10,000 a month. I'm sure that probably varies depending on
the area. Less than Pennsylvania, but still, I mean, you're talking 3,000 to 5,000, depending on who the payer is. So you can focus on private payer. Is Medicare going to pay for that? Certain types they will or will not. Medicaid patients, low-income patients, and the state reimbursements for that, which are still, pretty substantial. But
yeah. So I'll go on to the next one, which interestingly enough is also about senior care, but a totally different concept. This brand, it's a newer brand. It started, I think, in 2019, but they've got about 18 locations going, and one of their franchisees actually holds the licenses to 6 locations and is pretty much the Gulf side of Florida, like from Naples on up, kind of thing. And I think he's got 2 open, one in Bradenton, Sarasota, and I can't remember where the other one is, actually. But it is anywhere from like a 5,200 square foot up to say a 10,000 square foot lot building. And they essentially turn the inside of it into a small town. And it has like 13 different areas within the town. So it has like a diner, a movie theater. You can see here it has like the garage. It has a game room. It has a library. There's a town hall. There's like a public square area. And primarily, it started out being primarily, again, for memory care, Alzheimer's, dementia, and it's basically a daycare for seniors. And the run rate is give or take about $100 a day per senior. So you can imagine if you're a caretaker and you're like, oh my gosh, I've got things to do. What do I do with mom, or what do I do with dad? Having something like this, you can just drop them in for, they can come in for a day. They can come in, hey, they're there 5 days a week, or they're there, half a day, 4 days a week, or whatever. You can bring them here, and they have all of these activities set up to keep them busy, to keep them occupied. They do a lot of work with them in terms of like reminiscing, because they find that really helps their mood, and it just helps their overall, kind of health. The fact that, they get to spend the day in an environment that they grew up in, right? The vision for Town Square is that as generations age, they would do remodels of Town Square, so that, say, in 10 years, right now it's like 50s, 60s, right? In 10 years, it would be like 60s, 70s, because people, a little older than me would be starting to need these kinds of things.
I can't wait for the 80s themed Town Square when I get to that age. That's going to be a mess. But anyway.
But like I said, it's about $100 a day per senior. These a 5,200 square foot has the capacity for about 60 seniors a day. The 10,000 square foot has capacity for, I think, about 110 seniors per day. And you're cash flow positive at about 50% capacity. I just think this is such a cool model, and such a cool kind of reuse for some of the, older large box types of buildings that are out there. I have this little arrow here that shows you that this particular Town Square, which I think is their headquarters in Maryland, used to be a Rite Aid. And honestly, when I'm looking at it, I'm like, it looks like a Rite Aid.
Like it, yeah. The entrance on the corner, yeah.
Right. But then when you go inside, this is what it looks like inside. You've got the area with the pool table, and you've got the diner, and and they have, the cars fit the time period and everything like that. I thought that this was like, it's a unique, innovative use of property. And again, also it is still in that industry where, there needs to be innovation in how we take care of that aging population.
Yeah. Yeah, a couple of things about that come to mind. One, the reuse for the big box retail stores. I love that aspect of it. I did serve on the board of a adult daycare facility several years ago. It was basically a very boring, long rectangular space, semi-partitioned. It was. We try to make it better. It was there's. It was. I don't know. It was actually. It felt like the second floor of a nursing home.
Yeah.
Actually, which is the floor they don't want you to see when you go to a nursing home. First floor, it's renovated. It's nice. Go to the second floor of any nursing, not any, a lot of nursing homes out there. But this, but then there are two issues that I could see this maybe not being an issue with this franchise, which is one, reimbursements were mostly from Medicaid. So they actually accepted a very, very minimal amount. So this looks like this is more geared towards out-of-pocket payers. And then also transportation is also an issue. Generally speaking, to and from, if family members don't, physically take people that, take their loved ones there. But, those type of potential clients could be targeted. So I think it's another really, really interesting idea. And again, the 22% over 65 population, not that, I mean, anyone, I know it's adult daycares are geared towards the elderly, but I mean, I know, unfortunately, I know several people in their 40s or 50s who have cancer or who have who had strokes or debilitating car accidents, and their family members are taking care of them and need respite care. They can't take them they can't go to a wedding out of town and see their so and so get married. So and they can't take them to it. It's just so difficult. Someone needs a fair amount of care, so being able to take them there for a few days and at least during the day while they go to an event or something is a huge for caregivers is a huge thing. So I circled this one as well.
One of the cool things about this is and it's really a side revenue stream is they'll do like events on the weekend, right? They do it's funny on the training that we have, someone said, well, are there like field trips for people that are in nursing homes? And yes, nursing homes or assisted living or whatever you want to call it that are in the area essentially have field trips to town square, and they bring them in a bus and they spend half a day or whatever, but they get to spend that time in the environment that honestly that they grew up in. And part of that rationale is that when people have dementia or Alzheimer's, their short-term memory goes, but what they're thinking about, and my mom unfortunately has dementia, but she can tell you like absolute infinite amount of detail about the times that she spent when she was in her early 20s or her late teens, right?
Right.
This is built for her.
Yeah. And Jeri, Blaze raised his hand here. He has a question for you.
So one of the things you just addressed is this seems like it'd be a good application for event space. So I was going to ask about that. So I was going to ask you, is there any long-term data on the success of this franchise?
They don't have an item 19, or I should say, in their old FDD, they did not have an item 19.
What is item 19?
I'm sorry. In the franchise disclosure document, item 19 is where it talks about the earnings performance of existing franchisees. And the last training that we had was actually before their 2021 franchise disclosure document came out, which is in the April timeframe. So I can find out for you, Blaze.
Yeah. So the reason I'm asking is kind of my knee-jerk response to this is that after the first couple times there, it loses its novelty. And there's nothing sticky about the business model as far as I can tell. There's nothing that will hold on to people. So what I was after is kind of information on whether you initially, it's going to be like really cool, a lot of people, but then after that, it's not really an interesting space anymore.
But Blaze, the one comment I'll make, and I know Jeri can probably vouch for this as well. It's not about, so the need for, in my mind, the need for adult daycare facilities is driven from the fact that you have elderly people living with their family members, right? Or they live in let's use that example, right? I had a family member had a massive stroke in 2010. My mother took care of her for 7 years, 24-hour a day care. She took her to that facility that I mentioned that I eventually became on the board because I wanted to help and help facilitate some changes there. But just by virtue of having something, anything, was very beneficial when it comes to respite care for caregivers. And a lot of caregivers actually do not go out and seek those opportunities. But when there's something, anything, this is interesting to me because it does keep, the nostalgia of it does reinforce these memories and actually helps individuals who are going to go to a respite care facility for a day or half a day or a few hours or whatever, that it makes them more comfortable while they're there. But the need for respite care is, to me, in my mind, driven out of population dynamics and more for the caregiver. Really, and then while they're there, if there are things in this town square that resonate with with someone who's going there, then that makes them feel more comfortable while they're there. So I think it's more for the caregiver to have a safe place that hopefully that they enjoy going to, even if they go to an adult daycare facility that they're not really thrilled about, the mental benefit for a caregiver to have a facility to go to. And a lot of them in Pittsburgh have consolidated, have shut down. And it's because they were all going after the Medicaid reimbursements. These facilities can't operate on $30 an hour or $30 a day, or $40 a day, whatever the reimbursement was back in 2012 through 16. And so being in an area where targeting individuals needing at least 30 a day to be cash flow positive, I think that's an easier. I think there's things about this business model from what we're seeing in this one page that makes it more give them a better chance of success than some other entries that were. And I know this is recorded. I don't want to bash anyone, but then some of the other alternatives that have been out there for the last several years. I always get in trouble when I get recorded. So, anyways.
Well, I'll add on top of that, Paul, which is the people that would come to this facility. It is not new to them. I use my mother as an example. She would love this. When my mom, right now she's in a facility, she broke her arm for rehab and stuff like that. But when we would take my mom for a drive, if we took her 5 days in a row, she wanted to go to exactly the same place every single day, right?
Familiarity,
because that's where her memories are.
Yeah.
And so number one, the people coming here, honestly, 90% of them, it's probably brand new to them every single day.
Okay.
And as Paul said, it is as much for the caregiver as it is, and frankly, the financial responsibility as much for the caregiver as the patient or the person attending, because it's like, unfortunately, where I'm from, they don't really have any of these kinds of facilities, even the ones that Paul wasn't crazy about, right? But we were constantly doing research to see if one popped up.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't just about like, well, she might not want to go 2 days in a row. It was like, I got to find something to do with mom. And our only alternative was to have people come to the house.
Yeah.
And, frankly, you're paying
$25 an hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
To basically a non-medical person, $25 an hour through an agency to just sit there and either talk to the person. Yeah.
Keep them busy, like, we had all sorts of activities that they had to do with her and stuff like that, which frankly, were great for her, but they weren't of her realm. Although, one of the people who came and took care of her was my niece, and my niece would play music from when she was a teenager and an early 20, and it was almost like she knew that this was the kind of thing that would help her. And on those days, the difference between my mom on a day when my niece was there doing these kinds of things that this care center does, and not our night and day in terms of, is she with it? Is she not with it?
Get a meal in the middle of the day, get taken to the bathroom you need to go. I mean, it's the meal aspect and meal preparation is a big thing as well. So, and
Oh, yeah.
I'll let you continue. I'm sorry.
Okay. No. I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, I appreciate both of you answered the question spot on. So I really appreciate your input on those.
So this one actually, yeah, and some of you guys might be familiar with this one. Farm stores, they actually own a brand called Swiss Farms that's over in the Philly area. Farm Stores is a brand that started out in the late 50s down in Florida. They've only been franchising for a few years, and since they started franchising, they've been branching out. I would say that as they're getting more sophisticated and more mature in terms of what in terms of their expansion plans, they're really focusing on, let me go out from my core. So like you see this little one over here, over on the left side of the map. When they first started franchising, someone wanted to come in and be an area representative, but now it's like, you know what? Let's be more methodical in terms of how we expand. Pennsylvania is a big area that they are seeking to expand into. They've got, they're doing a lot of work in terms of new franchisees out from the Philly area. Given that you're in Pittsburgh and on the west side of Pennsylvania, I thought, what the heck? But one of the interesting things about this particular business, and where people that come in sometimes get stuck, is you can see that it's fairly specific in terms of, now, mind you, they are flexible in terms of what the space is really, but their core is this double-sided drive-through. And when they started out in Florida, they actually have partnerships with several developers and things like that in the Florida area. And like people that, developers that would say, you know what, I will help build out this location and then I'll lease it back to the franchisee. So the franchisee would buy the business, and then there would be a developer that would buy the land, build the building, and lease it back. As they're expanding out from Florida, what we're looking to do is develop those same kinds of partnerships, right? So that we have like go-to people in Pennsylvania that are, open to buying land or have land and have the double-sided drive-through on it and then lease it back to the business. But there's also they have multiple people coming in and looking at it multiple ways. So they also have some owners that have come in that have built the location, gotten the business up and running, and then selling the business, but they still keep the land and lease out the location. The other aspect is converting, right? So an old Steak and Shake or an old Rally's, or something that already maybe has the drive-through, maybe only a single drive-through, but has the drive-through there. The other part that, and I wasn't sure exactly the audience, Paul, but one of the other things that we're looking for is maybe partners that are experienced or do the modular builds. They have designs and things like that, but as we're moving up north and out, we really want more local developer partners. And people that are interested in just kind of owning real estate. They don't necessarily want to run the business, but they understand the asset that's going to be underneath that. This particular brand, it does their bread and I'll call it their bread and butter, right? But their history has always been where they're at the edge of large residential areas, near childcares, near schools. Mom's in the car, she's got the kids, she doesn't want to get out of the car, she doesn't, she needs milk, or she needs, potato chips, or she needs frozen pizza, or whatever it is, right? Drives through, picks it up. Kids don't have to get out of the car. She doesn't have to worry about running into the store and leaving them in the car. So that's been a lot of what they have seen. One thing that I would say I'm seeing, and with this particular brand, I actually work somewhat on the development side. So I work with them very closely as a sales development partner. And Pennsylvania happens to be one of the areas that I've got responsibility for. I get a lot of people that are coming in and they're like, we live in a rural area, and the closest Walmart or the closest Kroger or something like that is probably like 15 minutes away, 10, 15 minutes away. I feel like that this is them talking to me. I feel like this would be a great concept for me to be able to have, so that in our town or on the drag running into the town, something like this where they can just run through on the way in, way out. Besides the whole grocery items, they also do some fresh bakery items. They do coffee, they do orange juice, they have ice cream, they do like hot dogs and stuff like that. But it's like minor kitchen things. It's not like a great big, you need to be able to do all the different items that might be on like a burger concept menu or something like that. Questions?
Yeah, actually, Blaze just sent a question. I had the same question, actually. How many square feet is the average store? And I'll also say how much area, what's the square footage of the overall lot? So square footage of building and overall lot.
The building itself does not need to be too big. I think that they say uh, under two. I want to say like around 1,000. But I will double check that.
Okay.
And they did say, if you say half an acre, a quarter to a half an acre, some of it because of the drive-through, right?
Okay.
Or most of it because of the drive-through.
Yeah.
This particular brand, when they first started, a lot of their locations were actually shipping containers put side by side. But as they've expanded out, they actually have gone to more modular types of buildings.
If so if they're shying away from the shipping container concept, we actually have a couple different sources that came up over the last several months. So if someone's looking for shipping containers to build these double, I don't know if they philosophically want to go away from it, but I have a good source for, and they actually pull these shipping containers from the ports of Cleveland and I don't know if it was Cincinnati or somewhere outside of Ohio. I can't remember. But anyways, I have a contact there who would, so I don't know how many they have or what your demand would be or size requirements, but if that's still a consideration and you're not just completely moving away from it, let me know. And I have a contact I could put you in contact with that'll you could have a conversation and get a better idea. I've talked to them just from a high level, how do we buy, it? But in terms of pricing or how many they have, or I haven't been able to approach them with a specific example. The only interest in our group so far has been, people want to use it for some type of metal roofing or some sort of, trendy industrial design for a condo in a trendy part of town,
Yeah.
where they want to cut them up. So,
Yeah.
so if that's something I could help you out with, let me know. Just
Yeah, I
figure
will.
that out.
I absolutely will. What farm stores is always looking in the different areas, and Pittsburgh would the greater Pittsburgh area would count as an area, are looking for area representatives. So area representatives do take on the responsibility of finding unit franchisees, which you can use someone like me to help with that part of the process. But they also do, they do marketing and hand over leads to the area reps and things like that. Area franchisees and this is a general availability for area reps, is they do share in the franchise fees and in the royalties, right? So aside from if you have like anyone who is a developer, like they have a franchisee down in, I think, the Tallahassee market that is building, he's a developer, and he is building, 6 locations and putting in operations staff, and then he's going to manage the managers, right? So he plans on keeping them, but he is taking responsibility for the land and the development and not reselling the locations, but basically putting management in place and then creating an operational staff from that.
Okay.
This is the one I was actually at last week. Savvy Sliders. They have another brand called Happy's Pizza, which both of those actually have locations here in Columbus. Nothing in the Pittsburgh area. But Savvy Sliders is, I will tell you, I thought they were going to have to roll me home. Because they kept giving me sliders to try, and chicken fingers and stuff like that. But it is upscale sliders and chicken tenders. Their chicken tenders are there's a large chicken tender concept out there, and I will say that I would pick a Savvy Sliders chicken tender any day over the other competition. They're pretty flexible as to location, right? So, this looks like it was maybe an old Checkers. And then the picture down here at the bottom is, the redone model. And then this Payless Shoe Source, which both of these locations are in Detroit. They took us to that. It's relatively new in terms of being open. I've got a link here to an Instagram post so you can kind of see what it looks like after, a little bit on the inside. But they're obviously pretty flexible in terms of what the model is. The reason I wanted to, kind of talk about it is because it is a great concept. They're getting a lot of interest. They've got several locations that are open. I think, let's see, at the end of 2020, they had 4 franchises sold, but none of them had been open long enough to be in the item 19, the earnings performance. And they've got like 18, 19 of them open, and more sold and in development. They've got a 5-pack in Indianapolis that's in development. So they are looking to expand quickly. Not necessarily the right brand for this group to like own necessarily. They do like people that are very hands-on, but they are actually looking for area reps, and the area reps again would sell units and share in the royalties and things like that. But if you had people that like, they have a few people that are with affiliate companies that they work with, and these people are then opening 5 or 6 or 10 franchise units, and developing that management staff, but as they go about their daily business. I wanted to show it to you just because it's, like I said, I feel like the brand itself is super innovative. I think that they are assertive in terms of how they want to expand. They are committed to this particular brand. The food is absolutely fantastic, and I think you'll start to see it on every street corner in the next few years. This one, slightly different. It's a childcare model. And the reason I wanted to show it to you is, and one of the things I really like about it is that they do not require a particular kind of building. So if you think about a KinderCare, or you think about a Goddard's, or you think about a Primrose, they've all got that, like, what that building is, right? Building Kids School is totally flexible in terms of the space. Their smallest location is Menlo Park, California, and there's 27 kids there. Their largest is down in Louisville, Kentucky, and it was built to hold about 200 plus kids. Their only requirement is that you service between ages 2 and 6. They have a phenomenal curriculum. And these people are in it for the right reasons. They started the brand because one of their children was special needs of some sort, and I can't remember. It might have been more along the food allergy thing or something like that. But they couldn't find a good childcare, so they started a childcare. They have a lot of focus on the performing arts, which helps with, and very scientific, that helps with logic and creativity and kind of mathematics. And you wouldn't think that performing arts and mathematics would go together, but it does. But they have a very strong support of their employees. They are probably double the industry average in terms of net margin to owner. And their attrition rate is about 1/3 that of the industry because of how they take care of their employees, and just their whole, kind of environment and culture. But I love it because of the fact that it could be like this, it looks like light industrial space right here up at the top. The one here at the bottom on the left looks very much like maybe it was an old KinderCare or something like that. And I have no idea what the one on the right used to be, but I think it's just the cutest building in the world, and I would love to go here if I was a kid. So their investment range is like probably about 50% to 25% of what a normal childcare might cost to get up and running because of their flexibility with the building space. I don't know about you, but where I am here in Columbus, any anytime a childcare place opens, it is immediately almost at capacity, right? There is never enough childcare. So it's always just kind of a concept that's in demand. Any questions? Okay.
Oh, I have a quick one.
Sure.
So are there any of these units in the Pittsburgh area?
Not at the moment, no. They started out in California, and most of their units are in California. They do have one in New Jersey. They have one in Florida. They have one in Kentucky. They have one in Arizona. Most of their other units are in the California area, I believe.
Thank you.
But the nice thing about childcare over like a restaurant or something like that is that you don't necessarily need to have, that economies of scale, like restaurants that, lots of times they want you to do 3 or 4 if it's brand new to an area so that they can develop the supply chain. Something like childcare or the next brand that I'll show you, they don't have that kind of worry. It's just not as much of a thing. And frankly, within the childcare space, again, demand is so high. It doesn't necessarily need to be a household name. There's a childcare near me that it started off as one location. And he has 4 or 5 locations sprinkled all over Columbus. So the people that know the brand near me, the ones down at the southern tip of Columbus have no idea that, that he also has the location up north kind of thing. So childcares rely very heavily on, kind of the fact that people always need childcare, and then am I comfortable with my kid being here? It doesn't necessarily need that household name. Any other questions? Okay. This last one, this particular brand is actually much more, hey, I can be in a strip mall, or I can be, they like to be by other kind of beauty care places, just because there's a lot of like synergy, and they develop like cross marketing opportunities and things like that. But sugaring is actually, it's a very, very old process. It's from like the Middle Ages, from the Middle East, but is actually, coming out as a concept within the whole waxing personal care category. This particular brand, they started their franchising documentation got completed about 2 months before like everything shut down for 2020. But they actually do have a regional developer in the New Jersey, Philly area who will probably be opening up their first location in, I would say in the spring. They were actually able to find an old lash concept and they moved into there. So this brand, it's got a super nice investment range. 111 to 231 to get started for anything retail is honestly very cost effective. They're cool with it being a conversion, like a former lash or a former waxing. There's a lot of, in that whole beauty space, you find that there's a lot of mom and pop kind of places that end up not really being able to have the persona that keeps them going. So they go out of business and something like this can move in quite easily and very cost effectively. They are looking for regional developers to have somewhere between 10 and 20 locations. And then you share the franchise fee, you share the royalty. You're responsible for those stores in terms of making sure they have training. You usually open up your own store, but they are super semi-absentee friendly. They have really thought through how to get staff in, and the founder of the brand, she actually will go to different locations and do presentations to local cosmetology schools and things like that, and help the franchisee form relationships so that they, start to develop that steady stream of employees. Their personal attrition runs very low. You can start off with like maybe 3-4 people. They have a membership model, a very low membership model, like $10 a month, which I can't keep track of the number of memberships that I've got that are only about $10 a month. And I'm still paying for them because I forget I have them, right? But you get things back. You get like a 15% discount for being a member. And then they have every quarter they have some sort of give me, like if you're a member for the quarter, you get I don't know, an eyebrow sugaring for every time you come in or something like that. Some sort of gimme to be, to reward you for being a member. If you have women in the family that are looking for a business, this is a great business. The founders are fantastic. They've been doing it about 9 years. They've only been franchising since late 2019, early 2020, but the business itself has been around for about 9-10 years. And their 2022 FDD, they're probably going to be showing their net margin, which runs between 20 and 25%. So very profitable business, very low cost of goods sold. The primary COGS item is labor, which, as you can imagine, these services don't take an awful long time. You can come in and get a facial and it's like, half an hour or something like that. So there's a lot of turnover. Any questions on this one?
Nope, none here.
Quiet. Paul, you don't want a sugar?
I'm thinking about what type of spaces I've seen or that would fit a conversion. I think one of your earlier ones, I think I might have a location for you.
Oh, cool.
Trying to get a hold of the owner. Anyways, the was it the farm? Got to check my notes here. Yeah, the farm store had a location that was interesting. So
Got it. Well, I really appreciate all the time that you guys have given me today, and thank you so much for all the questions. You know, part of the reason I wanted to present here tonight was, you know, because I do want to form these relationships with more commercial brokers, people like you, Paul, the other people in the meeting, and you know, it's one of those things where lots of times, and I'm still learning when it comes to the whole property aspect, but, you know, one of my things is to be able to say, hey, look, if you've got properties that you are trying to figure out how to move, let's partner together and let me find people that might want a business to bring into the space that you've got.
Mhm.
Right? It doesn't always have to be where the franchisee starts looking for a space. It's like if if you've got an empty spot, and I get calls like this sometimes, I get leads coming in sometimes. They'll say, hey, I've got this empty spot. Used to be a coffee shop. Can you help me find a franchisee? you know,
Yeah.
so I'll do some advertising and look for some candidates that I can bring in, and it benefits everybody.
And Jerry, from the other end of the spectrum there, I mean, if there are, I mean, Blaze asked the question about the size requirements for the one concept that we were talking about earlier. I can't remember which one we were talking about. Maybe it was the farm stores, I think. But if there's certain requirements of properties that your franchisors are looking for, feel free to send me that shopping list almost. So whether it's something that someone already has, owned or was looking for a different use. I mean, there's a lot of individuals here looking for off-market deals, off-market properties. It's something, maybe they can start talking to a commercial broker that they're already working with and have a relationship with. So, a lot of different ways for, the members of this group to go shopping for you, basically. If it's not something we already, have under contract or own or are using. And for the group here, one of the many reasons why I was excited about Jeri being here tonight, as well as the last couple of monthly meetings we had to kick off 2022 was, we're all looking for, I want to introduce different investment classes. I mean, so many of our members are either small business owners, prospective small business owners, commercial real estate investors, owner operators of properties or businesses, or people who use this as a forum to connect people who have perhaps the cash to invest and individuals who want to be operators. And whenever I'm looking at I get an email this morning on a self-storage facility in Kennedy Township at a cap rate of 4.5%. I think we could do a little better than 4.5%. With some of these other, so being able to introduce, especially as some of these cap rates on a lot of these a lot of different commercial property classes are being compressed. Being able to introduce very exciting opportunities potentially where either the investor or the operator or owner operator investor combined could make a higher return on their investment, as opposed to maybe buying multifamily, buying a 12 or 20 unit multifamily building at a 5% cap rate. So this, and even as a passive investor who, again, wants to partner with an operator wants to buy a business. I mean, this group is really good at putting pieces together for all of us to accomplish whatever it is we want to do. So if small business ownership is a path that you want to pursue, either you're currently actively doing it or you're a prospective business owner, let's think in those concepts. We don't have to have all the pieces of the puzzle to play the game here. With that said, I want to thank Jeri again for taking a lot more time than I asked her for. Part of that's my fault. A lot of questions, a lot of good content. I'm excited about it, and I know I'm excited about it because a lot of things she talked about resonated with me. But then even more so, I know that a lot of what we talked about, just in terms of trends and what she started off talking about with regard to small business ownership was exciting to me. But then also just a small sampling of the opportunities that are out there. It's hard not to get your mind spinning, and especially with a lot of things we talked about in this group over the last several months, if not 4+ years that I've been running this group. There's a lot here that I think we can work on together and figure out how to accomplish what we've been talking about, what we wanted to accomplish over a significant period of time. So Jeri, thank you very much for your time. I will conclude the recording now before we start talking about before we have our roundtable discussion. Again, an opportunity for everyone to go around the room and talk about what you want to talk about as well. I see Brian has a question asking Jeri to share her contact info. The one thing I almost forgot to say was, if everyone wants to give me their contact info, I will send an email out either later tonight or first thing tomorrow morning with everyone's contact info. Jeri, if you want to send me a copy of the presentation, if you don't mind me sharing that with the group, please email that to me. Make it easier for you, single point of contact, and I'll send it out to the group. Again,
I would love that. And I have a dear friend who's very much into MBTI, kind of how the brain works.
Yep.
And I love brainstorming ideas, right?
So what's your type? I'm curious.
I'm an INTJ.
Okay. I am borderline INTJ, ENTJ. So maybe tonight I'm a little more E, but my baseline is somewhere in between. So that's
so I love like, hey, present me with a problem. I'm probably going to noodle on it and try to figure out how to make something work, right?
Right.
So
that's why I always stay up late after these calls, actually. So that's why I said I'll either email the group late tonight, or early tomorrow morning. So
I'll take the presentation, I'll turn it into a PDF, and I'll send it to you tomorrow, Paul, and you can distribute it. And I just want to say thank you to everybody that's been on the call, and I'm going to drop and let you guys do roundtable. And Paul, I'll talk to you soon. Okay.
Very good. Thank you again, Jeri, and thanks everyone. If everyone holds on, I will conclude the recorded portion of this meeting, and we will continue with our roundtable.